Hi friends, and welcome to my weekly live stream about the Uno platform. It's been a while since I've been doing this stream. Thank you for joining. If you've been there for the previous ones, I spend about an hour every week. I'll try to spend about an hour every week taking a look at the issues that have been opened on Uno platform and work that we've been doing recently. You may have seen us recently in our Uno platform webinar. Talking about the release, the 4.10 release that we've published last week, which talked about .NET MAUI embedding and a few other features like the support for shadows and all the partners that we have also for that for MAUI embedding. That's a lot of new controls that you can use in your mobile applications. But also the shadow container. So that's the cool feature that allows to add interesting shadowing and improve your UI to if your designers want specific things around shadows in your app, but as well as a few other features. So take a look at that webinar. I think it's we've talked about this on Twitter or X. I don't see it here, but I think our the link should be up, or take a look at our YouTube. I think it's probably directly on YouTube if I'm a Uno platform. I think you could probably take a look at that one. Oh, there you go. It's directly in the list, aside from this one. So we have, I think it was directly at the top. So the Uno platform 10 webinar. So you can take the link here, and I hear the stream over there, so it doesn't, not super interesting. So let me paste the link there. There you go. Okay, so that's about the news that we have. And if you have any comments during the stream, let me know. If you've been watching or listening directly on the stream. So today we're going to be taking a look at two issues. The first one is an issue that was opened actually yesterday. That is on the fact that using duration in resource dictionary does not seem to work properly. And we're going to take a look at what happens there. Maybe it's a known issue, maybe it's not, maybe it's a generation issue. Not sure there yet. And we'll see also another one, which is the bindings, two-way bindings in a combo box are calling a method in the wrong way. So we have a sample that we can test out, and we're going to see what we can do with that depending on the time that we spend on the first issue. I see Micknitz is here. Hey Micknitz, thanks for joining. I know you've been asking for live stream for a while. This is the streams are back, so we're gonna be doing some live coding some more in the next few weeks and months. So let's see what we can do there for that particular issue. So interestingly, that issue does not have a repro that's been posted. So that means that we're going to have to reproduce the issue and create a new app. So let's go there. So we're going to create a new Uno platform app. So if you're new, you can select Uno platform here, and then you have Uno platform app, which is going to be launching our wizard. So this is that issue. So we're going to be creating a blank app, and we're going to be just selecting the default options. Those are the right ones, and we're going to be comparing what happens on WinUI and what happens directly in Uno, and see if there's something that we should be adjusting. And hopefully being able to create a runtime test or a unit test or something that we can make sure not to regress in the future. Okay, so let's wait a bit for Visual Studio to set up everything. We should be having some pop-up that shows up very soon once the NuGet package have been restored. Unless it's been fixed in Preview 2, which maybe. I just installed Preview 2 for Visual Studio 17.8, so it's not fixed. We have to reload the project just for a few seconds. And then we're going to be testing it directly in Skia GTK. That's the fastest route to do some testing. And then we can adjust for the other targets. Okay, so what we need to do is make sure that we have those animations there available. And we're going to be doing we're going to be creating those controls directly. So let's take those durations and we're going to put them into the app resources here. So those durations that are going to be available directly. And then, so if you select the Windows headed, all the squigglies are going to go away. It's going to give you the right thing. So this is a recent regression in Visual Studio 17.7, where if you select anything but the Windows head, it's going to give you some squigglies. It's been reported on the Visual Studio reported problem feature. So that's something that needs to be taken a look at. One other thing that if you're new and you don't know if you're looking at things that we're doing, we're keeping track of all the issues that have been opened on the Microsoft side. And that one specifically, which mentions that we can't, IntelliSense is not working properly. This is the one, and you can upvote it. So I see that I've not published this enough, and it's not voted enough. So take a look at this. If you have, well, you're going to be having the issue if you're using a recent version of Visual Studio. So take a look and upvote that issue so that we can get Microsoft to take a look further at that issue. So it used to work in previous versions of Visual Studio, but it stopped working recently. Okay, so now what we need to do is create a new control. So we can show all the templates, and in the templates we have the Uno platform templates, and we're gonna take a look at the templated control, and we're gonna name it the same way that it is in the original sample, which is called my control. So let's call it my control as well. My control.cs, and what was it called? Yeah, there you go. Okay, so it's my control, and then we need to make a we need to copy the style that is available here, paste it in the app resources just below the content. And just we need to make sure also that local is defined. So I'm not too sure if Visual Studio is going to help me there. Maybe. No, it's not helping. Okay, so then we're going to add our XML local, and then we need to use issue 164. So the local my control is defined properly. Okay, so what we see here is that we have our storyboard that has been defined, and for some reason the formatting is not working, so probably not having the configuration right. Yeah, it's not working there. Okay, so we have the very long animation here that's defined here. So it's supposed to be 1 second animation for transforms. That's supposed to be transforming the text block. So first we're gonna add that control. So it's a keyed style. So we're gonna add a new control in the app that uses that template. So mycontrol.cs. Oh, mycontrol.cs is a little bit different. So that we're gonna take the main page, and we're going to change my control. We're going to change my control so that that is the same as what we have defined over. So it's on apply template. It runs the storyboard. That is good. And what else? We have my dictionary here. So we'll see. Maybe this is the cause of the issue, but maybe not. So we'll see if there's some difference there. And we're going to take the instantiation of the control and put it at the root of the app. So let's see on Windows if it actually does work properly, and if the original code is what's supposed to be done. So let me put myself a little bit smaller on the side. Okay, so we're building the Windows app. So see that we missed the partial, so let's add the partial again. So all the controls that are defined and used by Uno need the partial modifier, mostly because Uno is generating a lot of requiring a lot of generated code underneath. So it's best to work that way. Okay, so so it's gone, but whereas it was at the top. Let's actually put it in the middle of the screen so that it's easier. So let's do vertical alignment center, and actually we may need to do it inside of the control as well. It's probably going to be doing the same thing there. So let's change that. Assuming Nets is asking, does the storyboard require a dispatcher? No, it does not. But maybe there's a race condition there somewhere. Not sure. Okay, so we see that the animation worked. So the microcontrol template just went from being horizontal to be vertical. So that's what we're expecting. Now we're trying to do the same thing, but on Skia GTK. So let's see in Uno what happens. So the issue is saying that it does not work. So let's see if it's the case or if there's anything else that needs to happen. Okay, so we can see here that it's not moving at all. It's not moving at all, and that probably means that there's something wrong. So we're going to try to figure what. So the reporter original poster mentioned that putting the duration directly in the page resources was doing something, but for some reason the resolution is not working. So we can see if there's something different there. So let's go and see if the source generation is working properly. So to do this, we go to the analyzers tab here, and well, it has a node here, and we're going to go to the app resources folder and see if our resources are defined properly. And for some reason, it doesn't look like they are. So maybe I placed them in at the wrong location. Maybe it's because it's not interpreted properly. That's quite curious. Okay, so there's that. There you go. That's the first one that makes it that is wrong. This is supposed to be working. I don't see any reference to duration here. So maybe we have something wrong with our code generation. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now the workaround that was explained was to take the duration here and place it at the top of the page. So let's do this and see what we do get. So let's see, if you start the app again. Okay, so still not working. Still not working, but do we have the right generation placed correctly? So we should be having the definition for the resources somewhere in there. And I'm still not seeing it, which is very curious. Okay, so if I take a look at the key duration. Okay, so it's not there either. That is very curious. Okay, so let's try something else. Maybe it's because duration is not known for some reason. So let's put a style. Just put an empty style. We're going to see if our empty style is defined. That should be happening. So the generation should have happened right away, and we should be seeing our new style somewhere. Let's see if I search for empty style. Okay, it's not there. That is very curious. So let's see, maybe it's a rebuild that needs to happen. It's supposed to be happening right away. If it's not, then we're going to be taking a look at something else. Okay, style must specify a string as the target type. Okay, so there we have a problem there. Target type. We're going to do content control. Okay, so it built properly. Do we have our style showing up? Okay, still no empty style. Okay, so maybe it's something else. So sometimes this view here is lagging for some reason. Maybe sometimes not generating the right content. Let's try to have a second my control maybe. Let's see if it actually generates something different. So we have a text block here in main page. No, you can see that it's lagging because it still contains the hello world for my page. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to enable this. So I have the sources for Uno, and I generally go back to that location frequently. So in our tests, there is a property that we set when we want to test out if the generation works properly. So it's called Uno UI source generator. I'm sorry, emit compiler generated file. So this is a standard property that comes from Roslyn, so the C# compiler. And what it does is that it materializes the files that are generated for a compilation immediately during compilation. So you can avoid relying on Visual Studio and its tendency not to update the content of the files that are placed in here. So you can find those files in the opt folder once the build is complete. And so what we're interested in is the Net 8 version, which is the one that is used by the GTK target. And if we go and take a look at the main page, we should be seeing different things. Okay, so what we see here is that we have the resources that are being defined, so that's good. We can see that the duration is the right one. The from text is okay. In the app resources, we have this is very interesting. Okay, so in here we have initializers that are defined late. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like we're doing something to improve the performance of animations. It looks like, oh yeah, we're okay. So I see. So we're doing it as an app resource, and we're materializing the content afterwards, and it's doing the right thing. So we can see here that the content of the dictionary is done later on, and that the duration is initialized properly. So this is good. This is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's resolving. It's generating the resource properly. So we're sure that the issue is not related to code generation because the code that is generated contains what it's supposed to be containing. Now, the problem that we have is the fact that we're not applying the resource properly. So let's say if we take that resource that we've defined here and we put it in the storyboard directly. So let's say we put it directly inside of the grid, inside of the templated control. So let's see what happens then. So in terms of how things are declared and resolved, there's always a way. Oh, that is new. Okay, that's an issue that we've been transiently seeing. It seems to be related to the way the build process is running, but it's kind of interpreting files in the wrong way. I'm gonna have to take a look at what happens there if it happens again. I'm actually gonna be recording all of this. Well, okay, so it's still not working. So it looks like it's not applying anything. Let's see, are we starting the storyboard properly? Maybe we're not. So if we go into my control, are we getting to the storyboard? We are. Okay, we are multiple times. Still not getting the rotation of the content. We have the duration. So let's see if the duration is applied properly. So for instance, if we could look at the storyboard, and we can go into I think it's timelines. No, it's the children. So we take the first child and we take a look at the duration. What's the duration there? So if the duration is set properly, so the analysis originally was based on the fact that the reporter determined that the duration was not set properly or was interpreted properly, was not interpreted properly. So that's the first axis of taking a look. So we can see that the storyboard is empty. Okay, so if the storyboard is empty, that could be an issue. If the storyboard is empty, that would mean that did we get the right storyboard? So the storyboard, we get a get template child. So maybe we don't get it, and we're getting to the new storyboard here that's empty. So maybe that's the issue here. Okay, so we get null here. Okay, so that means that the part name storyboard is not resolved. So if it's not resolved, do we get? So we get this. We don't get the storyboard here. So we get template child. That doesn't seem to work for some reason. That is quite interesting. Okay, so maybe it's the fact that I added the duration at the top, maybe. We're gonna go take a look in the code that is materializing that template and see if we get something different. Okay, so the fact that it's null doesn't help at all. So let's go take a look at the generated code for that issue here. So what we can do is go take a look at the my control. Actually, my control is not there, so we're going to be taking a look at the app resources. Okay, so in the app resources, we're going to find the part storyboard that's in the resources. But it doesn't seem to be materialized. I wonder if it's because it's not materialized because it's inside of a it's inside of a get templated part. Let's see if we do find name instead, because find name is supposed to be working as well. So what may happen here is that because the storyboard is not materialized, it may be empty or not present at all, and the find name doesn't find it at all. So it could be something like this. Okay, so if it's not available, it could be something that we're missing. So let's say if we do instead resources, and then we use the part storyboard name instead, and we don't use the find name. Maybe that's the actual missing feature there. Okay, so it's still null. And in the resource tree, we don't have any keys. So why would that happen? Maybe it's because apply template is called twice. That could be, because we saw that apply template was called twice. So maybe there's a template that happens to be set before the storyboard can be defined. So let's see. Okay, oh, it's not null. Okay, so we're never getting a storyboard there, and it's not defined in the story. It's not defined in the resources as well. So it looks like we're getting something that doesn't make sense there. So we're supposed to be getting a part storyboard from the control because it's styled. Maybe it's because we haven't set the style properly, but we're setting my style properly. We're getting all the values that we need. Okay, maybe, let's see. Maybe it's because we're scheduling it, but that feels odd. It's not supposed to change anything here. No, we're not getting anything either there. Let's see. So we're supposed to be getting that value available, but for some reason it's not available. So let's say we add a second text block, but we're going to be setting the text of that text block to the resource that's supposed to be defined up top. So maybe it's because it's lazy for some reason. Maybe there's something that we're not doing here that causes that issue to happen. I recall that we made optimizations there. We made optimization there for the storyboard so that it doesn't get materialized immediately. That's one of the things that we did because most of the time the storyboards are, particularly when you're in a control template, they're not supposed to be accessed directly. So they kind of lazily created. So maybe that's something like that. So let's see if we reference that that resource directly. Let's see if we get something interesting there. So we got it here. Okay, so it's also xkey and xname. So maybe there's some difference there. Xkey and xname have a different meaning, though. Xname and xkey kind of are similar in a way that they can be added to a control. Though if you set an xname, you can do find by name. If you set an xkey, then the element gets set to the resources. So there are probably finer differences that we don't necessarily know of that are part of WinUI. But maybe that's the one that causes issue here. Okay, so we can see that the storyboard's available, but we're still not getting to the part where we have it accessible inside of the code behind. So let's see here if we do this. Maybe this time we're going to get it. Ah, there you go. Now we have it. Okay, so it's probably related to the fact that the storyboard is materialized lazily. Because now because I'm accessing it from a text block here, the storyboard is materialized. So now if we let it continue, we can see that the control template has moved down. Okay, so the issue here is not at all with regards to resolution of resources or anything like that. It's specific to the fact that storyboards here are materialized lazily, and they're not used directly in any piece of the code. And the fact that we are doing this explicit reference to the storyboard inside of the XAML, it materializes that storyboard explicitly. So if we take a look directly inside of the app resources, we're going to see something interesting here. We can see that in the storyboard, we have a weak resource initializer here. And that weak resource initializer causes the resource to not be available immediately. And the reason for this is that we don't want to have the storyboards to be initialized if they're not used. And that's probably part of the issue here. So what we could do is that what happens is that, and if we go take a look inside of Uno to see what's happening when we're doing find name. So let's remove the text block here, and we're gonna dive into what Uno's doing when we're doing the get template child. So we're gonna put a breakpoint in the get template child, and we're gonna go inside of Uno and take a look at how the resolution is done. And maybe we're missing something there, that we could materialize the content or the child directly without having to fiddle around and get that break at that location. Okay, so oh, okay, so F11 didn't work, so it's probably because I don't have I have step over source or something. Enable just my code. So you can see that I wanted to step in the get template child and it's not available. So I'm gonna disable just my code here. I see that source link is enabled, so that's good. So that will allow us to go inside of the sources for Uno. Since I have not rebuilt the sources from scratch, that should be enough. There you go. Okay, so now I've pressed F11, step into, and I am inside of the Uno sources. So let's take a look at what we have here. So we have find name in scope that searches for the, from the template root to the child name, and then we go inside find name. So I'm not sure exactly which one does what, but we can go figure it out. So that's a step over a property, but we don't need that one. So I don't know. In the call stack, where are we inside? Okay, so we're probably inside of the property. So we do get name scope. So we get a name scope. So name scope is basically an instance that allows to determine what names and what X names are available in the scope of the control that has been materialized from a XAML file. So in there, we can see that the only name that is available is my transform. I'm not too sure if that's the right answer, but we're going to be seeing if there's another way we can get that value. Okay, so we can see that this one doesn't return anything, and then we're going to go inside of find name here. So find name does a bit more things here. So we're going to get the subviews of the current element, and that one is probably just empty. It's grid, so grid is at the top. So grid is the top level element. So if we take a look at the main, at the control itself, grid is the top level element of the control template. So that's what we're looking into. And we're going to be searching for a named for an element that's called part storyboard in that context. And it's likely we're not going to find it, because find name is actually looking inside, is looking through the controls that have been materialized in the tree, and a storyboard is not a control that's to be materialized in the tree. So that's where we're getting a difference. So it feels like the other method that we were into, which is find name in scope, should be having the name that we're looking for, but for some reason it's not returning it properly. So let's try to see again in that method what we get. So we have our name scope, and the name scope didn't have anything, but does find name in scope do something different? No. Okay, so that one is not doing anything. It's just it's just doing a standard lookup instead of the name control. So it's not doing any kind of recursive lookup in the ancestors. Okay, so that is not working properly. So what we could try to find is, why don't we have our storyboard defined in the name scope? The interesting thing is that the namescope is defined here. So if we take a look at the namescope defined, when we're declaring the part storyboard, oh, and I see what happens there. That's very interesting. Okay, so we're missing something here. It looks like we should be doing so. Okay, so what I just saw, that's actually quite interesting. Okay, so I told you a bit before that the storyboard is something that is initialized lazily. And because it's initialized lazily, that means that everything that's inside that lambda, so including everything that's in here, will not be executed until the resource itself is fetched in a sense. So the fact that we added a static resource inside of the XAML actually forced that weak initializer to execute, which in turn executed a method which is called register name in the namescope, which is the namescope that we were just looking at. But the problem is that we can't get to that line until the weak resource initializes is actually read from. So we're kind of a bit stuck here, and that makes it a little bit odd in the sense that it should be materialized because it's the next name. So what should be happening is that block here should probably be partially set around here, I would guess, where that line would not be useful because the instance C1, which is the new storyboard, is not available. But maybe we should be kind of creating something in the register name that references the register name here, or kind of a lazy registration in some sense. So maybe if it's null, then we try to resolve the storyboard somehow using the resources, maybe. I don't remember exactly what we do here, but the idea is that we need to add something in at that location so that the storyboard that we have defined here becomes resolved when we load the XAML file. So that's actually quite interesting. So what we could do, well, the first thing to do is to take the code and put it back into a unit test so that we can make sure that we're not regressing around this. But we also need something different there because we're going to have a different method here that will ensure that the resolution of the name storyboard part will force a resolution of the name that's coming from the resources directly in the storyboard, directly in the namescope. So let's go find out. So inside of Uno, we're going to do something with the unit tests, and then we're going to take a look at a file that's called the cross-targeting override. So that file is located here. So when you clone the solution, the cross-targeting override file, if you've been here for a while, you know what that file is, but if you don't, that file is here to prevent Visual Studio from loading everything. That makes your experience a little bit better and consumes less memory. So what we need here is to select the targets that are from, let me actually recreate that file because it's a bit too old. So we need Uno UI tests. So we're going to be incrementing that file so that that line so that it targets .NET7. And we're going to be also improving a little bit the performance so that the analyzers don't run too often. And then we're going to be opening the UI test only solution filter. And then we're going to be reproducing the code that we have in the sample inside of Uno so that we can add that as validations during in our CI. So I remember, because I implemented that part, that we have that we do have unit tests around animations, but I don't recall exactly where. So maybe it's in markup. Oh, okay. So we have Visual State Manager, lazy Visual State Manager. We have transitions. Oh, that's quite interesting. So it would probably be that one. And there was a Visual State Manager XName that was there with the storyboard. But it looks like the test that we were making originally was only testing for parts of this and not everything. So in here, what we see that we have in the test here, we can see that the part that is named is the storyboard. And in the test that we have instead of Uno, everything that is named is timelines and sub-elements and visual states, but not the storyboard itself. So that's probably something that we're going to have to change and probably add an additional test that ensures that if you do an XName on the storyboard, it materializes the content properly. So let's see if we're actually testing the right things. Okay, so I can see that we do have parts. We do have parts of this defined properly. And if we take a look at this, so the idea here is that state is materialized as a property here because it's not inside of a data template. So we can see that it's a visual state group, but it's defined directly at the root. But the problem is that if we define all of this inside of a template, the data template, it will not be working properly. So if I take a look quickly at the original code, and if we go to that property that's called part storyboard, it doesn't look like it's lazy in any way. And if I look here, we have a lazy builder for visual state, but it doesn't materialize in any way. It's not materialized in any way. Okay, so that's a completely different test. It's an XName instead of a data template. So let's go and try to add that. So we're just going to be duplicating that file, and we're going to be reproducing the behavior so that we can debug the generators and have them do what we need them to do. Okay, so we have our data template that's available here. And we're going to be doing it simply because simply in a way that we're going to simplify those states and probably just do what the original test was, the original sample that we had from our user directly. So let's go for a content control. Content control, and we're going to define a content control template, which is going to be a control. So you may be noticing all the squigglies. That's expected because we're in a test that is not supported by any target. So the Visual Studio is a bit lost in terms of what it's supposed to be doing with all that XAML. But that's fine for now, at least, until we get all of this fixed in Visual Studio. So basically, we're going to be taking just that state 2. We're going to be removing everything else that's not needed. We need to set the target type, of course. Target type, what we need is a content control. We can remove that content. We could probably set a content presenter just as a so we can remove the public modifier. Now we can, that I think of it, content will be template binding content, so that actually shows something. But since we're inside of a UI test, it doesn't mean that much. So we have our visual state that's set. We don't have an XName on the storyboard. And actually what we need to test here is not necessarily that we want to put everything inside of a visual state here. We need to set the storyboard at the top. So it actually needs to be inside of a resource dictionary. I'm going to take the storyboard and place it right there. We can remove the rest because it's not useful. And we can just name the root so that we can get it from the test. Okay. So we have a content control with a template. We're going to set it a content so that it shows up without bugging us too much. And that should be enough. Okay, so let's go to the test here. Oh, I see that the name is incorrect. So we need to change the name of our control so that it matches there. So we need to change it as well as we need to change it at the top. There you go. So now if we go back in lazy, it should be working fine. So we're going to duplicate that test for now. So it's when XName data template. So we're going to be naming it the same way. So that's going to be easy. And then once we have everything, you can do find name. And we're going to search for storyboard 1. Actually, we're going to search for root. And then from there, we're going to do a get template child. And the get template child will do I see Dominic's is in the stream. Thank you. Welcome, Dominic, and thanks for joining. So we have our storyboard. So we need to get our storyboard, and the storyboard is going to be empty unless we get anything. So not null. Oop. Okay. That was a bit too much. Okay, so that should be enough. We're going to be adding the storyboard completely. No. Okay, that should be enough. And then let's see if our test fails. It should. So if we start the test, let's see what in the text explorer, what we do have. So we're good, the build started. So if you've been following for a while, we've made a lot of changes in the build process so that everything goes faster. So disabling analyzers during the build, or parts of the analyzers during the build, ensuring that we have less memory consumed when running the generators. There's a lot of work that's been done by Yusuf from the team, and it's a lot of progress that helps us to have a better experience for contributors when building the UNO sources. Well, it's still a lot of code, so that's why it's still taking a bit, but we can see that it's actually quite faster now that we get to the right point. Okay, so we can see that grid resource dictionary is not right. It's not, definitely not that. It's not resource dictionary, it's just resources. Just typed too fast. Let's try again. And then once it's in a test and we can, the failure is the right one, then we can go and figure out what we can change so that the source generators are generating the right thing. So we saw a bit before that, so it's still failing. Let's see. It says my control subject does not exist in the current context. That's probably because we're referencing something there that doesn't exist. Yeah, there you go. We don't need. Actually, we could use that. We could use that. So let's give it an extend. We could use that. So that's that makes that we can make validations into the fact that the storyboard could actually execute once we've done the fix. Okay, so let's go. Let's try again. So if we put once with the code that we took a look before, we saw that the method that should have been called is called register name inside of name scope. So we're going to find that method and see if there's another version of that that can be, done differently. We can see that the scoped element that's registered is an object. And when we're doing find name, we're not doing much aside from maybe calling find name on it. It's probably not good enough, but we can probably manipulate that part so that we get some interesting things. I see that there's something that's called the external scope. Maybe that's something that we can get to and use to do the resolution of the parent. Let's see, what's the name scope does not have a parent. We have a root instance that's not super useful. So probably what we should be doing here is just provide a resource dictionary. So if the instance that we provide here is a resource dictionary, we detect that it is, and then we assume that getting a string from that resource dictionary will force the materialization of the resource. Could be something like that. Okay, so this is not doing what we need, and we can see that the test failed, which is good. And it said, let's see what it said. So the only test that failed, it said is not null failed at the right locations. So we're good. Okay, so the test is failing properly, which is what we expect. So now let's go and try to figure out if we can do something about the find name or register name that we have in our code here, and see if we can move it around so that it shows at the right place. So if we can go to the source generator, and source generator is in the UI generators, source generators, XAML generator, XAML file generator, and we can go inside of a big file that contains a lot of things, and specifically contains this part. And we can see that if a member is inside of a dictionary, so we're basically getting to a point where we're analyzing the content. And when we're saying that a member has an X name, but it's not inside a resource dictionary, then we're going to be doing, we're going to be adding the register scope directly inside of the writer here. I'm not too sure exactly what it's generating there on what location, but that we're going to find out. But what we need to find is the fact that if we're inside of a dictionary, so we're inside of a resource dictionary, so which means that when we're defining here our template, we're inside of a resource dictionary definition here. So that's why we're not defining properly the content here, because it doesn't have proper members. So we're going to try to figure that one out. So what we can do is just move one step above and see how we're generating that piece of code. So we can see here that we're generating the weak resource initializer. And what we need is to move that generic apply that's placed at the end of the storyboard directly onto the weak resource initializer, and then adjust the code that's generated there. So we're gonna be searching for that initializer here and see what we're doing here. Okay, so we're seeing that we're in a top level dictionary. So that's one of the things, so that's one of the part we're defining, but that's probably not the one that we're looking for. We have another one, so we have a lazy resource initializer. So that's the one that is of interest to us. And that one, so we can see the code that's been generated here. So we have the current scope, we have the current owner, which is resource owner 2. And then we're going to try to pull out that register name outside of that build lazy resource initializer. So let's go find out where we're defining this. So the first location where we're defining this part is when we're in the method that's called build resource dictionary for each resource where the key is not null. But it looks like it's not the right one, because we're not defining a key, we're just defining a name. So unless key is either name or key, maybe it defines both. Let's see. Get explicit dictionary key. Okay, so we're doing both. Okay, so that works for both. So we can see that when we're interpreting the entry in the resource dictionary, we're determining if it's a key, and then we're determining if it has a key, but it's not inside of a it's not inside of a top level dictionary. Then we need to initialize it using a lazy resource initializer. The problem is that once we're done initializing this, we should be adding a builder that will define the scope name for the parent, but that we don't have at that point. So let's see what we can do there. So we need to be writing inside of the writer, but let's just make sure first that we have we're actually writing in the right location. So let's say if so we're going to be reading the actual name of the resource. So let's take that line explicitly. So we have the resource member first or default. So if it has if is not null, so we have if we have actually not necessarily just not null, but is, what do we have here? Value is an object, so it makes it a bit more difficult. Okay, so let's do it is not null, and then we can do name member and name member. Let's do string is not null empty. Name member dot toString, and do it that way. So value could be null, so we have to make sure that we're right as well here. So name member, the value is something in this that's called name value, and name value is not null or empty. So then we're good here. That's not value. So I do name member. There you go. Okay, so once we do have that, then we're going to be writing directly in we're gonna do a, what do we do? Let's go for that one. Up in line environment indented, and then we're going to be adding just a simple comment that says xname equals name value. And then we're going to be building our tests this time, but using what I've shown you before, which is by generating the file, generating the files on disk. So we're going to be using emit generated compiler files, and we're going to see if we're getting to the right location. So those files are generated in the net7 folder, and the folder is not there yet, but it will happen very soon. Almost there. Takes a while because there are lots of oh, okay, so we can see here that the modification itself actually broke a few other things because the completion is not working anymore. So let's see what we have there. It looks like we've generated the change in the generated code actually broke something. You can see that there's a null reference, so we're probably doing something wrong there. It could be because name member is not set properly, and that is probably because name member, I put var there. It's definitely not right. So, and that's one of the tricks of C#. If you put a var, regardless of the content, it will just set the value directly, and it will not do any kind of validation. So it's a kind of a gotcha. Not too sure exactly what that syntax is there for. You know, when you put a var instead of the curly brackets for the pattern matching. But it's there. It's possible to do. So maybe it's to create a variable out of the same type that comes from a method call. Maybe maybe that's what the use is there for. But anyway, so you can see that it actually built now properly, so it's not broken. We have a generated folder, and now we're going to take a look at the generated file, and there are quite a few of them. So the one we're looking for is Visual State Template, Visual State Manager XName Data Template. Visual State XName Data Template. There you go. That's the one. So what we're looking for specifically is the storyboard. And from that storyboard, we need to make sure that we have so storyboard is not lazy here, which is quite interesting. Not too sure why it's not lazy. So maybe that's why it's not doing what I think it should be doing. So that we're not reproducing completely there. So we have the test animation that's set. We have the storyboard that's defined here. Storyboard 1. Okay, so the first thing is that we need to understand why that part is not lazy. So it should be lazy, but it's not. So let's figure out if there's a difference into what we've written when compared to the original issue. Because we see here that the resource initializer was weak, and maybe it's defined because it's defined a different way. Let's see. Maybe it's because it's inside of a resource dictionary, top level resource dictionary. Maybe it's defined that way, and it's handling it differently. So let's see. We're gonna move this declaration that we have from the command control. We're gonna move it out inside of a resource dictionary, and we're gonna import that resource dictionary at the top of the file, and see if it changes the behavior. Though the interesting thing here is that the test animation was registered in the scope, and it should have been working because the name is defined. So before we do that, and probably going to be duplicating the test, so we keep that scenario because it should have been working. So let's take a look at the original test that we had. Oh, maybe that's the one, storyboard 01. So we had a storyboard here and test animation. Okay, so we should have been getting the storyboard 01 in templated child, but it looks like it's not doing anything there. Okay, so let's go figure out why we're not getting storyboard 1, because it should have been there originally. So maybe there's something different that we're missing here. So a few breakpoints that are not particularly useful here. Okay, so in there, we should be having our storyboard that's defined inside of the resource dictionary from the root grid, because it's defined directly on it. But for some reason, we're not getting template child because we're not on the right control. Okay, so that's probably why we're not having something that works properly there. So because we're not inside of a control. So what that would mean is that we should be not doing the get template child on root grid, but we should be doing it on SUT, I would guess, because it's on control. See, so that the method is different. Okay, so maybe this time it will behave differently. For some reason, inside of Uno, we have a get template child that's on a standard control. That's an alias to get to find name, which is not super useful, but it's an internal method, so probably not that big of a deal. Okay, so now we're inside of the right method. So find name in scope. So in find name. Oh, well, we already jumped over find name in scope. So let's try again. Find name in scope. Okay. Root is not. Oh, root is null. Okay, so that's not super useful. Template root is null because it's not materialized for some reason. Okay, so that's probably the reason for the issue here. So probably would need to materialize the control template, but we're not in a control template, so that's not supposed to be working. Root is a grid, so that doesn't work either. So maybe we should be getting the root control, which is the content control that's available here. And that's the actual templated control. Actually, the root grid, the root grid is interesting as well, so we can keep it. Okay, so the root templated control, we're going to move that to be a visible control. So to make sure that we get access to the field that is generated, we need to mark the field as public. And then once we have that, we can actually use the root templated control directly and to go to get template child on that control. So the root grid is probably not that useful at that point. Maybe if we do get the storyboard, it's interesting. It's interesting if we do the if we want to do some additional materialization. Okay, so let's see if we get something better then. Okay. I like the fact that the build is a lot faster than it used to be. So if you've been following me for a while, you can see that that it has changed quite a bit. Okay, so do we have a storyboard? We do have a storyboard. So that means that the test is working properly, but that's actually another test. because it's supposed to be working when we're inside of a control template, but not inside of a file that is a resource dictionary. So that there's a bit of a difference there. So that we need to change. So we're going to be doing a second test. And we're going to be duplicating everything so that we validate that behavior. So and we get the roots if I execute the test completely without anything. So okay, so it's great. We're good there. So it's working as it should. So we're going to be changing that test, and we're going to be doing from dictionary. So the test is probably going to be too long, but we'll see. You know, maybe if we have a name too long here, some platforms are going to complain, but we'll see. So we're going to duplicate this one, and then how did I call it? Just forgot about it. From dictionary. From dictionary. Dictionary. There we go. Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to be using a separate file to store the content. So so that's going to be from dictionary here. From dictionary at the top as well. But this time we're going to take the content of the template that's defined here and put it as a resource dictionary instead of the control folder here. So resource dictionary without code behind, so that would be the one. Resource dictionary. Yeah, that's the one. Resource dictionary, and we're going to be calling it when visual state manager x name data template. Resources, there you go. It's a big one, but it's for a good cause. And then we take that control template and we put it inside of the control here. We'll see if we'll see how it works, but that should be good enough. So it's going to be an X key in this context, and we're going to call it my template. Let's call it my template. And then in there, we're going to be using a template called a static resource, and from the user control, we're going to be merging another dictionary. So the syntax of a merging for resource dictionary is defined like this. So you can create a dictionary, a resource dictionary at the top. So you need to create an actual resource dictionary. And then inside of the merge dictionaries, you reference a resource, just a basic resource dictionary. And then the source is a bit different. So the source needs to be a path that leads to that file. And that file is going to be msapex. So the name of the test. So it's likely going to be this name. I'm not too sure, but we're going to see. And then the path is going to be everything that leads down to this file. So the path is going to be a bit long, but that's going to be tests and then Windows UI markup, controls, and when Visual State Manager from dictionary resources XAML. Okay. Okay, so there we have it. That should be enough. So if we build that one again, let's see what we get. This time you're going to take a look inside of the file that's generated for the resource dictionary that we made that's very long, and see what we get from there. And if we actually have our file, our resource, our storyboard generated lazily and not explicitly. So the one we're looking for is xname, no, sorry, Visual State Manager from dictionary. So that would be the one. Resources, there you go. So that's the one. And let's see if we find our visual state. So we have our template that is a weak resource initializer, and we go to get one. Get one is defined here. And we have my template again. No, that's not the one. We still have our storyboard, and our storyboard is still materialized explicitly. Okay, so that's not what we're looking for. Probably missing something there. Maybe. Hey, Laura. Thanks for joining. My sister is in France and watching me on the stream. That's nice. So a lot of code generation and XAML. It's probably been a while that you've been writing that kind of code. Okay, so next is trying to determine why we're not there. So maybe it's because it's in a style. So let's move everything into a style. So we put the storyboard directly in directly as an element of the resource dictionary, but maybe that's not the case. So maybe it's because we're in a style somehow. Could be. So let's pick that one up. And we're going to see if we get something different there. Let's rebuild the whole thing. Probably should be running just the tests so that I don't have to scroll, but there's quite a bit of files there. Okay, so we're looking at that file. Okay, so we had a compilation error. Get resolution does not contain. Okay, so that is quite interesting. Looks like I wrote something incorrectly, probably because local microcontrol is not defined. So that's probably why. We're looking for a content control in our test. So let's try this one again. That looks better. Yeah, it is better. Okay, so now this time, let's go see if our storyboard is still is defined lazily. It's still not. It is still not defined lazily. That's a problem. So definitely we're not in the right location. Okay, so we were in a resource dictionary. We're in a style. We define a control template. And still, for some reason, it's not working. So maybe it's because it's sort of a resource instead of a resource. Could be defined that way as well. Could be some nesting that I'm not seeing. So in here, no, we have nesting as well. We have the resource. We have the storyboard. Okay, so let's go take a look at why that would happen. So in our context here, we're looking for a control that we're looking for a resource that's supposed to be defined as a weak resource initializer, and it's not the case. So if we search for a generation code here, that's not the one. Weak resource initializer, we have that the resource dictionary initializer. Okay, so that's not dictionary from source. So that's not the one. That would be the other one. Okay, so we have this initializer. Okay. So it's supposed to be happening here, but we're not going inside of that part where we're initializing the resource initializer, but that seems that there's another reason. What would that be? That's quite interesting. So I don't know, and we're gonna have to dig that further. But we've actually gone past the hour now, so we're gonna take a look at that next week. And if not, then it's gonna be something else, probably some data binding issues that we couldn't get to that during that stream. So that's it for today. I hope you learned a bunch. That was quite fun. We went deep into the rabbit hole of resource resolution and X names, but that's what we get to when we're doing some Moodle platform. So until next week, happy coding, and see you next time. Bye for now.